Taxes are going up. You may not even have heard of this, but you might find out about it at the store when you see inflation continuing to rise. Among the increases going into effect this year, a 15% minimum tax on corporations over a certain amount that is based on profits that they publicly report on their financial statements for shareholders. Joining us right now to discuss, former Trump senior economic advisor Stephen Moore. Stephen, there are over 50 companies, I think, that they're targeting because they don't like seeing, oh, Nike's not paying any taxes, Amazon's not paying taxes, FedEx, people. That's not really what's going on. They have taken advantage of tax deductions and tax credits, so they have no taxes due. So this will mean they all have to pay a certain amount, but how are they going to make up for that? My theory is they're going to pass it along.
Well, there's no question about that. You know, companies have to make a profit. So if the taxes go up on companies, what do they have to do? They either have to, reduce wages to their workers, or they have to raise the prices at the store, at the retail level. And so it's not going to be a great bargain for taxpayers or also people who are consumers. But look, there's another point here, which is that, when we did the Trump tax cut, one of the big elements of that was to allow companies like FedEx that make massive capital expenditures in building, and having trucks and computers and all sorts of electronic equipment and all sorts of technology. Right. We allowed those companies to deduct that from their taxes because we want them to do that. That's one of the things that leads to, higher wages for workers and makes America more competitive. So a lot of those firms massively increased their capital investment, and therefore they didn't have a tax liability. But guess what? In the future, when those capital investments lead to higher profits, they will pay taxes.
Yeah, and Stephen, we're just seeing here, I'm just looking, breaking news, Washington Post lays off some employees, but especially we've been seeing a lot of layoffs in the tech industry, specifically in the face of uncertain economic times. Microsoft, Google, Amazon all announced fresh rounds of layoffs, and lots and lots of people, look at that, 70,000 just last week, and they come as digital advertisers are cutting back on spending and rising inflation curbs consumer spending. Break that down for us in layman's terms. How is that going to affect Americans?
Well, first of all, our tech sector has been the leader of our economy for almost 3 decades now. And, we had trillion-dollar companies and in companies like Google and companies like Facebook and Amazon and so on. And as an American, I'm proud of that. I want American companies to be as competitive and as successful as possible. Now, last year was a terrible year for the tech sector. In fact, those FANG companies, F-A-A-N-G, that's Facebook and Apple and Amazon and Netflix and Google, lost about $1 trillion in market capitalization as their markets shrunk. Part of that is I think that those companies, and you talk a lot about this at Newsmax, a lot of those companies have kind of gone out of their way to insult and antagonize half of their customers, which are free market conservatives like we are. And so I think that was a dumb model for these companies to use. And I think they'd be very smart, don't you, if they put politics out of it and just did their business.
Yes,
that's right. All right, Stephen Moore, thank you so much.
Okay, guys, have a great week. Take care.
You too.